Have you ever felt like something important was missing in your childhood, but you could never quite name it? And now, as an adult, you feel it showing up in your relationships, your emotions, or the way you talk to yourself when no one else is around. Not in obvious ways, not in dramatic trauma stories, but in quiet patterns you can't seem to escape. If that feeling hit a little too close, stay with me, because this video might finally put words to something you've carried for a long time. Emotional neglect doesn't always look like abuse, or yelling or chaos. Sometimes it looks like silence. It looks like parents who provided food, shelter, and education, but didn't notice your inner world. No one asked how you were really feeling. No one helped you name your emotions. No one showed you that your inner experiences mattered. And when that happens, a child doesn't grow up thinking, I was neglected. They grow up thinking, something is wrong with me. That belief quietly follows them into adulthood. Before we go any further, if content like this helps you understand yourself and feel less alone, you're always welcome to subscribe to Mind Grooming. This channel is a safe space to gently unpack patterns like these without shame, pressure, or judgment. You're not behind. You're learning. One of the most common ways childhood emotional neglect shows up in adults is a deep discomfort with emotions. You might feel overwhelmed by your feelings or strangely disconnected from them. You know something is happening inside you, but you don't know how to explain it. And sometimes you don't even know what you're feeling until it comes out as exhaustion, irritability, or numbness. Growing up, no one helped you translate emotions into words, so your nervous system learned to shut them down or let them flood uncontrollably. As an adult, this can look like crying and not knowing why, or feeling stressed all the time without a clear reason, or feeling empty even when life looks good on the outside. Another way emotional neglect appears is through chronic self-doubt. You second-guess yourself constantly. You replay conversations in your head. You worry you said too much or not enough. You ask others for reassurance, but it never really sticks. This happens because, as a child, your inner experiences were not validated. When no one reflects their emotions back to you, you don't learn to trust your own perceptions. So, as an adult, you look outward for confirmation instead of inward for confidence. You might appear capable and independent, yet inside you feel unsure of yourself in ways you can't explain. Emotional neglect also shows up in relationships, especially in how close you allow people to get. You may crave deep connection, but when someone actually tries to get emotionally close, you feel uncomfortable, guarded, or even irritated. You might pull away without knowing why. Or you might do the opposite and overgive, becoming the emotional caretaker in every relationship while ignoring your own needs. As a child, you learn that your feelings weren't a priority, so you adapted by minimizing yourself or becoming hyper-aware of others. Either way, intimacy feels confusing because no one modeled what safe emotional closeness looks like. Another subtle sign is feeling guilty for having needs. You might struggle to ask for help. You might feel like a burden when you're struggling. Even when someone offers support, you feel uncomfortable accepting it. This comes from growing up in an environment where emotional needs were ignored or dismissed. You learned, without words, that needing comfort or attention was inconvenient or unwanted. So now, as an adult, you pride yourself on being low maintenance, strong or independent, while secretly wishing someone would notice you without you having to ask. Emotional neglect often creates a harsh inner critic too. The voice in your head might be cold, demanding, or unforgiving. You push yourself to do better, be better, achieve more, but it never feels like enough. Mistakes feel personal. Rest feels undeserved. This inner voice didn't come from nowhere. When children don't receive emotional guidance and reassurance, they internalize the belief that they must push themselves to earn worth. Over time, that belief becomes self-criticism instead of self-compassion. Another way this neglect shows up is through difficulty identifying what you want. You might feel lost when making decisions, even small ones. You might ask others what they think before checking in with yourself. This happens because your preferences and feelings were never explored or encouraged as a child. No one asked what you liked or what mattered to you emotionally. So now you feel disconnected from your desires, unsure of your direction, and anxious about making the wrong choice. If any of this feels familiar, I want you to pause for a moment and take a breath. Nothing is wrong with you. These are learned adaptations, not personal failures. Your nervous system did what it had to do to survive emotionally. Awareness is not about blaming your parents or reliving the past. It's about finally offering yourself the understanding you didn't receive back then. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which part of this resonated the most with you? Or did you notice a pattern you hadn't connected to emotional neglect before? Your story might help someone else feel seen for the first time. Healing from childhood emotional neglect doesn't happen overnight, but it begins with noticing. Noticing your feelings without judging them, naming emotions gently, allowing yourself to have needs without guilt, choosing relationships where emotional presence feels safe, not confusing, slowly learning to speak to yourself with the warmth you deserved all along. If you know someone who struggles with self-doubt, emotional numbness, or relationship patterns they can't explain, consider sharing this video with them. Sometimes one video, one sentence, one moment of recognition can change how someone understands their entire life. You're not broken, you were unseen, and now you're learning to see yourself. Thank you for spending this time with me and for trusting this space with something so personal. Stay curious about yourself, stay gentle with your heart, and I'll see you again in the next video.